fill out that form. If you do not get to speak and would like to submit any written commentary, please submit it to Mr. Ray. He will make sure each board member gets a copy. We will begin shortly at 6:30. Pursuant to Section 841411 of Nebraska statutes, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education Service Unit, Board of Education of Douglas County School District 0001, and the Board of Educational Service Unit number 19 will be held on Monday, October 19th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. in the board meeting room of the Teacher Administrative Center, 3215 Cummings Street. The agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection in the office of the Secretary of the Board of Education at the Administrative Building during regular working hours. Pursuant to Section 841412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the board meeting room on the north wall. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Dr. Holman. Vice President Dr. Holman will also lead us in the OPS vision and mission statement.
First, our vision. Uh-oh. What just happened?
Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Cassidy,
Here.
Godding,
Present.
Holman,
Here.
Cracky,
Here.
Perlman, Ryan,
Present.
Smith,
Here.
Snipe,
Present.
Snow.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Moving on to our school spotlight. It's back. Jeremy Maskell.
Yes, good evening, President Snow, Vice President Dr. Holman, members of the board, and Superintendent Logan. We are thrilled to be back with the OPS Proud Spotlight. And this evening, we are very happy to celebrate Harrison Elementary for their achievements in the Omaha Public Schools Summer Reading Program. As you know, and we all recognize, teaching young people to read and instilling a lifelong love for reading is so very important. The summer reading program encourages students to read each day and log that time online. Harrison Elementary logged more than any other school in our district community, nearly 75,000 minutes just within their school community. Congratulations to Dr. Andrea Haynes, principal, and staff, and all of our Harrison families. So as we work to limit groups during this time, we're connecting with Spotlight honorees virtually. So here are some thoughts from 3 past and present Harrison students, Nell, Luke, and Claire.
I'm Luke. I'm a 6th grader at Harrison Elementary. Hi, I'm Nell. I'm an 8th grader at Lisson Park Middle School. My favorite book is this book called Wings of Fire. It's a series, and I started the series in 6th grade, and then I kind of stopped reading it, and then I continued this year. And then I also like this book. It's a graphic novel. It's called Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. And it's like kind of the modern version of Little Woman. And yeah, those are my favorite books.
Awesome. Luke, how about you, sir?
So I got this book over quarantine. It's called Pax, and I just started it probably 2 weeks ago. I've been reading that. And then I like this book called Dragon Hoops, and it's about basketball. And it's this team that they try to make it to state, and they end up winning the state tournament. It's important to read every day because you want to boost your brain, and even if you're not the strongest reader, you can get up to being the strongest reader.
And Luke, how about you?
I don't know, if you're bored one day and you're like, oh, I have nothing to do, you can just go sit down and read a book, and you'll be good for a few hours.
So Claire, tell me what your favorite thing is to read.
I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that was my favorite book. Because I really like sci-fi and fantasy.
And Claire, how does Dr. Haynes and your teachers at Harrison Elementary encourage you and your classmates to read?
They tell us if we have free time that we should read, and they say that one thing that we're very encouraged to do during one of our shifts or whatever you want to call them is reading. So for 5 to 10 minutes we just read.
What advice would you give Luke and then Nell to other students who maybe haven't found their love of reading like you both have?
I'd say just keep reading books, find the ones you like fantasy. If you like fantasy, just go through all those books, read, you'll find what you like, and just keep reading those types of books. If you like a certain movie and they have a book to that movie, you can read the book. And also pick your favorite genre and try reading a lot of those books that are in that certain genre.
I love what Luke said. If you find a good book, you're good for a few hours. So if only I had that same attention span. But we also wanted to share that in Dr. Logan's podcast last month, she shared that our students at Harrison Elementary, which had the most minutes, and Edison Elementary, which had the next most minutes, they would be receiving special gifts of books to continue their reading, and these are some of the books that arrived recently here at TAC in partnership with Scholastic and are going out to our families and students at both schools. So thank you to Scholastic for their support, and congratulations to our Harrison Tigers readers.
Thank you. Moving on to board and superintendent communications. We'll start off with our superintendent, Dr. Logan.
Good evening, President Snow, members of the board, and those here in attendance and those watching the stream. This morning, we began Phase 3 of our responsible return to in-person learning, welcoming back all elementary and middle school students whose families have opted for in-person learning. The academic calendar updates approved at our last board meeting provided our teachers with designated professional learning days to prepare for our students' first day back. We spoke to local media outlets at Springville Elementary this morning to give an update on the status of our phased return to school and to answer their questions. Thank you, huge thank you to the new principal, Mr. Jacoby at Springville Elementary School. He did a great job. That update followed a live stream town hall event hosted for our employees last week, where we shared information updates and answered questions ahead of students coming back to school. Last week, our Student and Community Services team answered questions through a hotline set up for our families. Additionally, the team hosted 6 meetings with parent-teacher representatives from across the district to ensure consistent communication is being shared about our phased return. 1 out of 5 students will continue learning remotely, as some families have opted not to return to in-person learning at this time. It has been 7 months, exactly 215 days, since our students in elementary school were in person with their teachers and peers. We know there will be a need for continued emotional well-being supports. Through our counseling services, we are prepared to provide them to our students and staff where needed. We are set to move forward with phase 4 of our responsible return to school plan on October the 19th, when we will welcome our high school students back to the classroom. As we've shared in the weeks leading up to our in-person return to school, we are using our Family 3-2 instructional model for most students at this time. On days when students learn at home in our Family 3-2 instructional model, elementary students will attend a morning meeting and later access on-demand lessons in English, language arts, and math. Secondary students will virtually attend their regular day of class. Our district operations team has planned and prepared to ensure we have an adequate amount of hand sanitizer for staff and students, and that our school buses, classrooms, and facilities are sanitized on a regular schedule between each use. To understand positivity rates and patterns inside our schools, we began staff testing within the past few weeks, thanks to the support from the state of Nebraska. That information positions us to make swift decisions which can help protect our staff, teachers, students, and their families. For our senior high school students, we know this is not the senior year any of us planned. At the same time, it is important that we continue preparing for the next phase after high school graduation. For seniors who plan to attend college, we want to remind families that the 2021-2022 free applications for federal student aid, also known as FAFSA, launched on October 1st. Seniors, please complete it as soon as possible to ensure your eligibility for financial aid support and other supports available to you as you apply for colleges and universities. On September 22nd, our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors were not in school to allow our seniors who were juniors this past spring to take their ACT, an opportunity they missed as students did throughout the state when we went remote in response to the pandemic. Nearly 70% of our seniors came to school, masked and socially distanced, to take this optional exam. So we appreciate all of that, and all of our high schools who did a lot of work to make sure they were ready to receive their seniors on that day. National Custodial Workers Day was last Thursday, and October is National Principals Month. We want to publicly recognize our nearly 400 custodial employees, from our part-time custodial aides, truck drivers, head custodians, housekeeping specialists, and many more in between. Thank you for all the work you've done to prepare our facilities for our students to return to in-person learning. October is also National Principals Month. We know great schools have great principals. Our school leaders deserve recognition for their leadership, especially throughout these past 7 months. Having served as a principal myself, I understand the amount of personal sacrifice the role demands. Every one of our school leaders' contributions makes a significant impact on the success and well-being of our students. We appreciate all that you do. Big congratulations are in order for Standing Bear Elementary students and staff for their recognition as a National Blue Ribbon School. The National Blue Ribbon Schools program honors elementary, middle, and high schools across the country where students achieve very high learning standards or are making notable improvements in closing the achievement gap. Big congratulations to Principal Bridget O'Melia and her staff, and former Principal Lynette Keys for that accomplishment. For Miss Amy Lacing of the OPS Career Center and Zoo Academy for receiving a Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. This award is the highest award given by the U.S. government to kindergarten through grade 12 teachers of mathematics and science. And for Miss Karen Wright of Norris Middle School for being selected as the Dual Language September Teacher of the Month by the nationwide Dual Language Schools program. A job well done by all. Every day we are back in person is an opportunity to learn how to best navigate our new normal. We will take lessons learned and improved as we move forward together. The virus has taught us to remain flexible, even when we don't want to be. We know there will be cases, and we are prepared to quickly transition to close a single school, a program, or multiple schools to limit virus spread. We will lean on our layers of health and safety precautions. At the same time, we must also lean on our families and community. To continue in-person learning, we need your help. The more precautions we all take when at home and out and about on a daily basis, the better chance we have to lower the positivity rate here in Douglas County and maintain in-person learning. Fewer community cases means a more successful year for every child in the metro. This concludes my remarks for this evening. Thank you, Mr. Snow.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Any comments from board members? Ms. Cassidy.
Yes, just briefly. Thank you, President Snow, by the way. Just briefly, obviously this is our first day back for our elementary and middle school, and I was very happy to send my two off today. They're pretty excited to be back as well. But I couldn't help but think about all the people behind the scenes that make our schools happen and make our schools work, especially during this pandemic. So as I put my little one on the bus today, I thought that I would take a quick moment to thank some of those behind the scenes, like our transportation bus drivers. We got Carl again. He's our driver for our second year in a row, so we're so excited in my household. But people like our bus drivers, our custodial, we just mentioned our custodial staff this month is obviously recognizing them, but our custodial and engineering staff that have obviously gotten our buildings ready, sanitizing them, cleaning them. Our nutrition service workers that I know at least my elementary school daughter, there was a video that we had to watch for how to go through the breakfast line, whether you're doing grab and go or hot breakfast. And just thinking about the logistics that had to change for those groups in order to feed our students is incredible. So nutrition service workers is definitely on the list. And then some of those like district operations staff, like our carpenters and our machinists, even our landscaping crews, people that have gotten our buildings ready, made things like our protective shields that are now in some of our buildings and here at TAC. So just wanted to kind of give some kudos to some of those groups that probably aren't recognized much and thank them for their help in getting our students back to school safely and efficiently. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cassidy. Any other comments from members of the board? All right, seeing none, we're moving on to the consent agenda. We have 3 forms that have been submitted. If you are coming up to speak, please make sure your mask is worn properly and it covers your nose as well while you're speaking at the podium. The board has adopted policy 8346, which provides public comment for a period of 1 hour. That same policy limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes. We ask that you respect that time limit. Mr. Ray will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining and when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you are in need of an interpreter, please let Mr. Ray know, and one will be provided for you. If the subject of your public comment is related to a particular student or staff member, we ask that you not mention the student or staff member by name and instead provide that information to Mr. Ray. He will assist us in looking those types of details for you. If you do not get an opportunity to speak and would like to submit any written commentary, please provide it to Mr. Ray. He will make sure every board member gets a copy. As a reminder, we ask that you please spell your name and state your address before you begin your public comment. It is 6:46. And our first speaker is Kenny Wing-Ender. Good evening, Kenny. Please spell your name and state your address before you begin.
Good evening. It's KennyWingender. I live at 5845 South 49th Street. I'm really happy we are going back to getting our kids back in school where we really need them to be. I'm not thrilled that the high school kids aren't back yet. I'm not exactly sure why we can't have them all back in school. Me in particular, I have a junior who's suffering right now because he's at home, AP classes. I'm now paying for tutors to try and get him from having F's to back up to having A's and B's where he's at when he's in school. So hopefully we get him back a little bit quicker and we keep him there. You know, all the other school districts for the most part have been back full time. They're making it work. They're not any better than us. They're not. We're just as good as they are, and if they can do it, we can do it too. We're very capable. You've got to let us do it. You've got to give us a chance. Now, the biggest reason I came tonight is because I'm the vice president of the Bryan Youth Wrestling Club, And right now, currently, OPS is not allowing any of our outside entities into our building and into your buildings, onto your properties, none of that kind of thing. And that's very important to clubs like ours. You know, one of our main purposes is to keep kids off the street, give them something better to do with their time than to get into trouble. And right now, we're in jeopardy of not being able to do that. We're trying really hard to try and find somewhere else we can go, but options are limited. We're all volunteer. We don't make a lot of money. It's not like we can just go out and rent buildings and stuff. So I would encourage you to please strongly consider letting our kids into the school for these extracurricular activities. We played baseball all summer. We made it work. We didn't have any major flare-ups, anything bad happen. You got to give us a chance to do this so we can help keep making things better for our kids and help keeping them going the right direction. I know, like with wrestling, for instance, you may not realize it because we're in total body contact, but we are some of the cleanest people out there. We are really high on our kids about their hygiene because of the skin diseases that get passed around, especially with wrestling. We take extra precautions, cleaning our mats constantly all the time, keeping the areas clean and germ-free. We would be doing the same thing, and even more so if we could get back into the buildings and get back to doing the things that we've been doing. You know, for so many different things, if anything, just to burn energy. You know, we got a lot of kids who got a lot of energy, and when they're cooped up at home all day long and they can't get out and do their thing, we need to have somewhere for them to go. We need to have something for them to do. These extracurricular activities, all of them that they participate in, are really big, really instrumental to the success of the growth of our children. So please reconsider letting us back into the buildings, letting us on the grounds. We're more than willing to step up and take any and all extra precautions to try and make sure that it's safe for everybody. You know, just give us a chance. That's all we're asking for. Get our kids back in the buildings, get them back to normal. We realize this is an epidemic, but it's not just going to go away. So we got to figure out how to move forward and get back towards normal, even with some extra added precautions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Walter Sudad. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please spell your name and state your address. Thank you.
Walter, W-A-L-T-A, Sue, S-U-E, Dodd, D-O-D-D. Good evening. I live at 3233 Madison Street in Omaha. I am the Omaha Education Association retired president. I'm here tonight to ask, why does the board want to turn the administration of OSERS over to the state? Beginning July 1st, 2016, the Nebraska Revised Statute 79-980, which states, the Omaha Public School Board of Education has no duty or responsibility in the administration of the OSERS plan. Omaha Public Schools' only duty and responsibility is funding the plan, which the board agreed to in LR 318. Why does OPS board want to remove the administration of OSERS from the OPS employees, retired members, and the Omaha business community, since the board's only responsibility is to fund the plan, not to the administration of the plan? Why is the board willing to pay millions of taxpayer dollars to turn control of the administration of OSERS over to the state plan when their only responsibility is to fund the plan? The money being spent to turn over the administration of OSERS to the state could be used to pay attention to the unfunded liability. Is it because of the services used by OSERS? No. Because OSERS reimburses the services according to the allowable indirect services law. Or could it be the investments? No. Because the state handles the investments. So why? Is it because the board wants to be out of the administration of the retirement business? Then by state statute, the board has been out of administration of retirement business since July 1st, 2016. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Simone Rao. And good evening. Please spell your name and state your address before you begin.
All right, my name's Simone, Simone, and 1624 South 141st Avenue Circle, Omaha, Nebraska, 68144. All right, and I also have copies for you guys. To the members of the board, I am one of your teachers. As one of your teachers, I have a passion to serve my students, to be their support system and their academic cheerleader. Recently, I have become more and more disappointed by the lack of communication and inclusion of teacher opinions in decisions that affect us and our students. Since the pandemic began, any decision that has been made by the district has been made aware to teachers only minutes or hours before parents and the community. This affects our time and ability to plan and prepare for parent questions, concerns, and lesson plans. I am here today to implore both the district and the board to include teacher opinions, thoughts, concerns, and suggestions. Here are some ways you guys can do this. Send out surveys to teachers whose answers are actually looked at and discussed in sessions. Include teachers at the various teaching levels in these sessions. OPS leaders who are involved in these meetings should be required to come into Title I schools and see who their decisions affect. Again, these leaders should be helping teachers and administrators communicate with parents. I want you to remember this. When you vote on a new change, we are the ones who have to change our teaching styles and communication process to fit with what has been decided. When a parent is upset, we are the ones who have to be ready to address their frustrations and concerns. When the pacing guide is changed, we are the ones who have to stay up all night fixing plans. When a student comes to school sick, we are the ones exposed and put our families at risk that we go home to. Remember, there are always consequences for our decisions, when they may be positive or negative. And since we are the ones who have to face those, don't we deserve a voice? As one of your teachers, I feel that my ability to serve and educate my students in our district has been compromised. This is because every move I make is micromanaged by the Omaha Public Schools. Teachers in our district have lost almost all autonomy and creative decision-making in our classrooms, which affects our capability to feel confident in our teaching strategies and addressing our students' unique and individual needs. Let me ask you one question. What is the point of following a pacing guide if our students don't understand what they are learning yet? If your answer is because of state testing, then you fail to see the power of what your teachers in this district can do. If we continue to follow the pacing guide without addressing student challenges we know we're going to face, most students are going to fail the state test regardless. If I may give you a simple solution, give your teachers back their autonomy and creative decision-making process. We know how our students learn. We are professionals who have a passion for making a difference and looking out for our students' best interests. Let us make those decisions while aligning to our pacing and curriculum. Our students have the greatest capabilities, but it is frustrating that they can't reach them because their teachers are pushed to go through the curriculum quickly. They are limited because we are limited. To conclude, your teachers are frustrated, exhausted, and concerned about what other changes are coming their way that will affect their students. Please consider everything I've discussed, not just as one teacher in your district, but as all your teachers who share the same passion. We need you on our team. I plead for you to come observe your schools and see how your decisions affect your students and your teachers. Signed, an exhausted but passionate teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Please bring your copies to Mr. Ray over there, and he will make sure every board member gets a copy. And thank you for being a teacher at Omaha Public Schools. We're moving on to the consent agenda. First of all, will anybody be abstaining from anything on the consent agenda?
I
Ms.
will
Cass.
be, President Snow.
What-
I am
what item?
abstaining from, I believe it's item I-15, Claim C, please.
All righty. Anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that is here before us.
So moved.
There's a motion by Ms. Ryan. Is there a second? Ms., who said, sorry, go ahead. Did you say Ms. Snipe or Ms. Ryan?
Ms. Snipe made the motion, I
Okay.
seconded.
There's a motion by Ms. Snipe, second by Miss Ryan. It's really hard if the mask is on. Mr. A, roll call, please.
Aye.
Hear it over here at all. Aye.
Cracky.
Thank you. Aye.
Thank you. Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Snipe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to our first item. This is an action item. This is J1A. This is the blackboard for the district's mass communication system. And I believe we have Kayla Morrissey that's going to as well as Mr. Maskell to lead us in this.
It's actually me.
Oh, Mr. Ray, I apologize then.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry, Mr. Ray will be leading us in it. Well, I tell you what, both of you match. We're wearing blue today, so that's good. Fantastic.
It was actually all planned.
All planned. I bet.
So thank you very much, Mr. Snow, Dr. Holman, Dr. Logan, Mr. Perlman, Ms. Snipe, Ms. Cassidy. I want to make sure I don't forget anybody. Mrs. Goding, Mr. Smith, Ms. Ryan, and Mrs. Cracky. Excited to be here in front of you tonight to talk to you a little bit about the RFP for mass notification and website design. I'm here with Kayla Morrissey, Coordinator of Marketing and Visual Information. We're asking tonight for your approval to go with Blackboard, and we're going to give some background information as part of the presentation. So Kayla is the Coordinator of Marketing and Visual Information, and she'll be co-presenting with me today. So before we get started, you have a pad of paper on your counter and you have a pen, and I would like you, if you'd take a minute, to write the 4 strategic priorities for the strategic plan. It will not be collected unless you choose to give it to the media.
Right in.
The 4 strategic priorities for the strategic plan. Just take a minute. So then I'm also going to ask you to write the word safe. And this is an easy way to remember the 4 priorities of the strategic plan. If you think of S as staff, A as academics, F as fiscal accountability, and E as ethic of care, we're going to focus on ethic of care tonight. So as part of ethic of care, we're looking at one specific goal, and that goal right is on the board. It's looking at our updating of the digital platforms to reflect prevailing technology to provide two-way communication and promotion of the Omaha Public Schools with stakeholders. So again, this is part of the strategic plan that you approved in February. We want to make sure that stakeholders have access to the information they need to reach families in their language. In addition, we want schools and staff to feel empowered and easily and effectively manage that content. So I want to talk a little bit about the process today, but I also want to thank Kayla Morrissey for co-chairing the committee that looked at the RFPs and provide some information there. But before we get into the details, I want you to think about 100 years ago. So 100 years, not just 10, but 100 years ago, and how we communicated with families and how we looked at things within the district. So in 1924, and I understand this is not quite 100 years ago because one person will point this out that I made that mistake. So 100 years ago, Lake School News published a publication to their families in 1924. And in this, they provide information about Lake School. So this is volume 1, February 1924, volume 1, number 1. So this would be the first, where they talk about Boy Scouts. They talk about meetings that they're going to have. They give information about the history of the school. They provide information about Miss Morgan's sewing class and 7B, and so on, about specific things that were happening at Lake School in 1924. And I have to give Mrs. Cracky some credit for this because a couple meetings ago she was very happy that she received the newsletter from Crestridge, I believe, and you talked about the value of the newsletter. So in 1924 we published this great newsletter. This newsletter also included some advertising for bakeries, for wood shops, and a meat market. So 1924. So we find ourselves continually working through the district to the point in 1948, we bound some newsletters from the board, actually not the board, but the superintendent. And so we saved these from 1948. Again, a newsletter in 1948 for Castle. So it provided district-wide briefs from 1948 about what was happening, new pay dates, the master calendar, care of your mimeograph. Fascinating. So that was 1948. So we keep moving through this to the point where we go to the superintendent's bulletin. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take it out of order. Here's a letter written to parents from 1959 to Horace Mann Junior High. It reads, it looks like this was a note that went home to families about the first day of school. And so again, notice how we connect with families. And in this newsletter from 1959, sent out to parents, it talks about, this is fascinating stuff, that you cannot wear rivets, any pants that have rivets, because those rivets will mar the new furniture. Also talks about that you cannot use ballpoint pens at school. You can only use fountain pens because ballpoints are not permitted because they continue to damage the soft desk wood tops. So you see where we're going with this. 1965 Superintendent's Bulletin refers to Adams School as the citadel of learning. There's two great kids thinking very sternly. So there's a lot of information, a lot of things that we've gone through over the years to the point, this is great stuff, something that was submitted by an advertisement actually from the Omaha Public Schools to tell the community about programs within the Omaha Public Schools from 1962. We skip a few years, of course, just simply because of time, to the point where the district did an audit in 2013, which many of you have seen, to an audit of 2017, where both of these items were brought up about how we communicate with families and how we meet people where they are. So I think for slide 5, you
skipped.
all right, thank you. I was so excited. So where we are today with a global pandemic and where we've been communicating with families, the current system or the new system allows for district and schools to send email, text, and robocalls to staff and families. Last year alone, we sent over 17 million messages to families. You see the numbers broken down. Website, just last month, 220,000 hits, and then we currently do not have a mobile application. So again, we progressed from 1924, almost 100 years, to the point where we're going to be asking you for approval of a new system to manage our website, mass communications, and our mobile app. So with that, I believe it's now Kayla.
Yes. Thank you all for your time tonight. Mine won't be quite as entertaining as Matt's, but I wanted to take a moment to walk you through our RFP process. So a committee of 9 members that comprised of IMS, District Communications, and our Chief of Staff reviewed all of the RFPs that were submitted. There were 8 RFPs that were submitted for mass notification and 12 that were submitted for the website and mobile application. Each member reviewed the RFPs and scored rubrics independently. The committee then came together and the consensus was to bring in 2 companies for a demonstration. The same 2 companies were identified as top candidates for both RFPs. Therefore, we combined the demonstrations for mass notification and website into one. We gave each company one 90-minute virtual demonstration slot, and they were asked to cover both products. Each company was provided an outline of what to cover during the demonstration. In order to ensure more voices had a part of the decision-making process, we decided to expand our committee to include additional individuals. In the effort to be conscious of everyone's time of reviewing 20 RFPs, this seemed like the most appropriate time to bring others in. We included a Board of Education representative, Dr. Holman, and 5 principals, 2 high school, 1 middle school, and 2 elementary principals. Each committee member sat in on demonstrations and scored a rubric that was developed from the demonstration outline. Even though companies gave one demonstration, the rubric was designed so that mass notification and website applications were scored separately and different companies could be selected for each. Scores from the rubrics clearly indicated one company stood out above the other for both mass notification and the website.
So the committee's recommendation is that the district move forward with Blackboard for both mass notification system and website design, mobile application development, and hosting. To tell you a little bit about Blackboard, they're used by over 50% of K-12 public school districts in the United States. They're also used by many of our Council of Great City School Districts. They offer 24/7, 365 support for all users, and training modules are available online at all times. Redundancies and backups across the country allow for limited downtime. If one goes down, another one picks up. They also have a create once, publish everywhere concept. This supports school leaders as communicators and helps to ensure families receive consistent messages across the district. In addition, it empowers not only the district as a whole, but schools to engage families more easily and efficiently. So we wanted to highlight some of the key features that stuck out to the committee. So with Blackboard Mass Notification System, approved users with permissions can not only send messages from web-enabled devices, but they can also send them from a mobile app. The system allows for automatic translation of over 108 other languages beyond English. That includes 6 of the top 10 languages spoken by Omaha Public Schools families. Families have told us that they like text messages as a way to receive important reminders and information about Omaha Public Schools. The Blackboard system is easier because it is an opt-out process. Currently, families must give us their phone number, but then they also must opt in before receiving messages from the district. This eliminates the extra step for families and staff. The Blackboard system also has a newsletter feature. Many of our schools use third-party vendors for email newsletters. The platform could allow the district to have one vendor for email newsletters. This would create consistency for our families and ensure that their email preferences are maintained in one system versus multiple. Blackboard also has the ability to send report cards electronically, and they were the only company that could deliver to hearing impaired devices through TDD and TTY devices. Shifting to the website and mobile application, the Blackboard website and mobile app shifts the hosting, ongoing maintenance, and some technical aspects of the website to their organization. Using their custom templates, the district can create a look and feel across all sites that allows schools autonomy to brand their pages according to their school colors and logos, but keeps functionality and navigation similar for all end users. Blackboard sites take a strong focus on photos and videos. This is something that our site currently doesn't have a strong focus of. The district could use more photos and videos to highlight the great work of our students and staff. The system also allows for users to set expiration dates and publish dates to ensure that content is always current and up to date. The current load time of pages is less than 1 second. Using the Blackboard system, the district will be able to set permissions on pages and sites and create an internal site for just staff. The mobile application pushes information listed in multiple sources onto the app. It integrates with many of the vendors that Omaha Public Schools currently works with, including Infinite Campus and School Cafe. This pulls information from all those sources into a single mobile app. A parent can log in one time and see information pertaining to their child for grades, assignments, lunch account balances, and more. One last important feature with the website is that the district can create content in one place and publish it in multiple sites. An example of this is currently, if we want to publish an important reminder on the OPS website, we not only need to publish it to the district site, but then ask schools to publish it on their site. With the Blackboard feature, we can maintain and update it at the district level and automatically push it to all schools without school staff having to touch their website. It will appear natively on the school's page versus a link back to the district site. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Matt to talk about cost and next steps.
So again, there was 2 separate RFPs issued, one for mass notification and one for website and mobile app. Again, this goes back to probably 2013, where the district really looked at what things needed to happen to meet both the initial audit and the second audit, and both the strategic plan that was approved recently. And first, mass notification, the cost is posted. Both systems are a per student rate. Year one costs reflect a setup, initial design, implementation, training support, and annual fees. Year 2 and 3 are those ongoing costs, which include training, maintenance, and annual fees. A grant was approved by the Board of Education in February of 2018, I believe, to cover some of this project specific to the website mobile app, and that's around $308,000. So year one and most of year 2 will be covered by that grant. And those are both calculated by a per student rate as we move forward. Next steps. So this is a big project. When you think of Infinite Campus, you think of Student Assignment Plan, you think of PeopleSoft, you think of all the websites that each school has and the school districts have and departments within the school district and what connects with our website. We know that this is a big project that IMS and District Communications will both be working on, again, part of the strategic plan. And so there are four phases. First is the district, high schools, then middle schools, and then elementary schools. And it's just because of the capacity, the amount of work that's involved. We're committed to a family-focused website, and Kayla talked about those ADA requirements. We plan to engage students and families in the process to determine what content is most appropriate and desired for easy access. And we plan to engage students as well as we move through this project. Again, once this is approved, we will start working on a project plan and incorporating those items into it. We also plan throughout this implementation to provide you, the Board of Education, with updates so that you may see how we're progressing. So again, about 100 years ago, Lake School provided news with a paper copy. Paper copies are important. People still like them. But we also need to meet people where they're at now, with their phones, with their computers. And part of that is upgrading both our messenger system and our website and having a district app. But before we wrap this up, one more little activity. If you could, on your piece of paper, write the values of the strategic plan. Norms. And there are 5 of them. And this is a teaser too, because in a future board meeting, Dr. Crow will be providing some information about the strategic plan, so this just warms you up to another meeting. All right, so then write real joy on your piece of paper. The R is results, the E is equity, A is accountability, the L is leadership, and then joy is also a norm. So you have safe and real joy as ways to remember the strategic plan. Again, another kickoff to Dr. Crow when he presents in the future about the strategic plan. So I'm going to pass the 1924 document around too, that you can take a look at. And again, the board is asking for approval to enter into contract negotiations with Blackboard. Those costs that were reflected on the PowerPoint were the initial based on the RFP response. We have not begun contract negotiations yet as well.
Thank you. Any questions, starting with, any board members have any questions starting off? Mrs. Scotty.
Well, as you were talking, I think parents will have real joy. I actually was thinking about the joy part because I think the number one thing I hear about is communication from parents. So I think this is very exciting. I clearly remember back to the 2013 audit and then the 17 with updates that still reflected things to work on. I guess I'm curious to know, I have a couple questions on that. So we approved the grant, what, 2.5 years ago, which is a long time ago. Have we just been waiting to do this, and is the grant still out there for us?
There has been an extension approved on the grant. There has been, if you think back from 2013, there's been different people in roles and since then within various offices. We've also had some people that are no longer with the district that were responsible for some of the web applications.
Yeah.
So despite all that has been going on with COVID and what district communications is doing, what IMS is doing, we have still been doing this work to get going on this RFP. We all agreed that it can't wait any longer, and we moved forward. Much to some people's angst, we did still keep pushing people to do this as part of their work.
No, that's good, because I think it's 7 years since that first communications audit, which clearly had a lot of to-dos in it. So tell us, what really is the time frame? I mean, we talk about these different phases I see here. Are we talking about another 2 years, or are there things that can be done sooner? And I'm just curious to know what the time frame is.
So a couple of things. We want to be really mindful of important dates. So if you look at best practices for website launches, you wouldn't want that to be the second week of school. So we want to be very mindful that we're doing it during breaks, winter break, summer break. But we also want to work with the company if Blackboard's awarded. They're the ones that do this day in and day out. And so they're realistically going to have a good idea of what a good time frame is, knowing what our goals are, and that we want to take the phased approach and the number of schools that we have. They've worked with a number of Council of Great City Schools. So we kind of have an idea in our mind that we want to be mindful of those breaks, but also working with them once we have a contract in place to determine what that exact timeline looks like, because we know that they would have the best practices knowledge on that.
Is it safe to say that maybe by next year, at this time, some of this will be implemented within the schools? Because I think high schools would be first, right? Is that after the district? Would high schools all have a communication plan a year from now? I'm just curious.
So what's important is we have to meet with the vendor. So we have to
Okay.
meet with the vendor and timeline it out. According to the strategic plan, we have till January 2025. But it's also important to note that there's no additional staff to do this. So while we're implementing this and we're working on this, communications is still doing their communications work, IMS is still doing their IMS work. So part of our updates that we want to provide to the Board of Education is after we meet with that the vendor and we come up with a project plan, we'll provide that update to you all as well.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Ms. Ryan?
Along the lines of the timeline and stuff like that, are we going to have to expand in employees to work on this, since it is such a huge deal? And I mean, our IMS and communications people are flooded with just COVID-related stuff.
We are not planning adding additional staff for the implementation of this. This is work upon the work that we're doing, and it's also the work that we know is part of the strategic plan. So the strategic plan drives what we focus on. So there's no current plan to have additional staff help with implementation.
Any other questions, Ms. Ryan? Ms. Cassidy?
Thank you. The only one that I had, I'm just kind of curious, all the other companies that submitted RFPs, is it pretty competitive, the pricing? I mean, I know you broke it down per student, but is the overall pricing fairly competitive? I think you mentioned 12 companies total?
So there was a wide range in pricing. The mass notification, it was much closer, but for the website, some of the major differences that we saw in the website RFPs are some are out of the box geared towards school districts, and some of them are starting from the ground up custom builds. So those tend to be much more expensive than a framework that's already developed for a school website that then you can maintain and make specifications. So there was a much wider range of cost for the website than there was for the mass notification. But this company fell in the middle of the road for both of them.
It's kind of curious. One other question I do have, can you talk a little bit about the mobile app integration with Infinite Campus and School Cafe? Is that for both the web and mobile app? Is that for both?
So what it is it's a mobile app that families would be able to download on their mobile device. And once they log in, it would be the same login that they currently use for Infinite Campus. Then it would pull that information from School Cafe and from Infinite Campus and pull it all into the app. So somebody could log in, based on the demo, there's a photo of the student. They'd click on it. They'd be able to see the student's assignments, their grades, upcoming notifications from teachers. They'd also be able to see what their current lunch balance is. and see some of those specifics for their child and then all of their children.
So it won't necessarily do away with those sites. It'll still be school cafe. You'll just be able to access them from the one spot.
Correct.
With
So
one
instead of
password.
logging into multiple, yes.
Yes,
so it
with
would,
one password.
Yes, it would, based on the RFP, it pulls the Infinite Campus password and username for the family.
That's a great function. Just as a parent, that's a great function. Great. Okay, thank you.
We thought it was pretty cool.
Any other questions? Ms. Cracky?
I remember talking about this before and them getting their lunch financial thing in order. And we've already had some of that with all of our schools, haven't we? So that they can see what they owe the school or conferences or something like that. Or is that always an individual school that's doing that? And I always have commented, I would like some of what we have on the internet, on elementary, on middle and high school, to be similar. They can always put their additional things there too, but it's, I think it would help everybody, because sometimes they have children in 2 different high schools or something, and then they go in and it's a whole new system to get familiar with. And I'm just hoping that when we do this, that they will be similar enough that people can find their way around very easily.
I remember when you came on the board, you talked about uniformity. Is that what you're talking about in terms of the website experience?
Well, yes, it was very difficult.
Right.
And no one's at school right now, but yes, it was very, very difficult. And I did point that out, and we did need help with getting that smoother.
And the second thing that we actually talked about at first, but the financial information, we can get you some information about how schools access their finances in one location.
Sure.
Any other questions, Ms. Clarkey? Ms.
No, I
Scully?
don't have anything else.
I didn't hear for sure. Can you tell us, is Blackboard used by other districts in the metro area and the state? Did you put that in there? And I'm trying to remember that right now.
Blackboard is used by some school districts in the city, and I don't know about the state, but it's one of the larger vendors. I don't have a list, but we could sure try to get one together if that would be helpful.
That would be great. I mean, I've planned to vote to approve it, but I just am thinking about parents from other districts who have talked about some of their experiences and wondering if this is comparable to what they get to see.
Mr. Perlman?
Thank you. First, there's some really interesting stuff in this thing I'm going to pass around. This 1924, it's got the old-fashioned version of the Pledge of Allegiance, the secular version. And then Washington's Rules of Conduct. I have no idea what Washington that they're referring to, but rule number 5 here is a little strange for an elementary school, but this is the advice from 96 years ago. Make friends with those of good character. It is better to be alone than in bad company. It's kind of a...
It hit home for you, didn't it, Mr. Berman?
I set you up too easily.
There's also advertisements in that, but since 1924, there's advertisements. If you see, yeah.
You're gonna miss me.
Just,
Listen, I do.
I mean,
have
just
some
for 100 years, just 100 years, but.
Okay, all right.
You notice why I gave those to you first.
I got about 30 or 40 questions here.
All financial.
The first one is who owns the data? Everyone always asks about that. Who owns the data? You know, we're talking about if there's things that are inputted or views and all sorts of privacy issues and content ownerships.
I mean,
who owns that? Who has access to the analytics? I think that's your question.
That's probably a bit better. Yeah.
It'd be part of the agreement that we use when we go with Blackboard.
But is there policy related to that?
I don't believe there's a specific policy related to that, but part of any IT contractual agreement that we have as part of the district, it is one of those items that the district, it's FERPA protected, There are all the protections with regard to COPA and all of those various items that we put it on them to give that information to us, and that they have to protect that information. And that would be part of the negotiated.
Well, it's one thing to say that they're able to protect it. Are they able to distribute it or to sell it or market it in any way?
No.
And is that going to be part of the contract?
We can certainly put that as part of the contract, if that's important to the Board of Education.
Okay. Yes, it is to me. Another question I have is there going to be a transfer of the content that is currently online to this new system, and who's handling that?
So that's one of the things that we still need to work out with the company. We did build into the contract price that they would assist with approximately 3,000 pages of movement. One of the things that we plan to do as part of that content move is really to look at what information's out there and what information still needs to be there. Just as I've done a sweep of the site, there's pages that are very outdated and that we need to either update or we need to move off the site. So that'll all be part of the process. So we'll have departments help us in moving content as they reflect and review content, but then we'll also have assistance from the company that's built into the RFP.
Would that have a potential increase associated with that in cost?
No, that's reflected in the price that was shared with you today.
Oh, okay. I guess another question I have is, have some of these metrics been tested? I know that there was a presentation and things like load times were shown, presumably to be what was represented, but has there been any other checks with districts around the country who use this system to see if that's something they really can deliver on?
As part of the RFP process, we stuck to what was presented to us in the demonstration and what's provided as linkable to us in the RFP document. So many of us looked at the sites that were linked to from the RFP document, but beyond that, I'm not sure if there's a way to track specific load time from that angle.
Okay. And so this company also, is it accurate to say they would handle the technology behind the robocalls?
Yes.
Okay. You know, one problem I've always had with robocalls from the district is it seems about I would say about 80 or 90% of them go to my voicemail, and only about 50% of them are actually captured as voicemails. Have y'all experienced that? Like, I'll check my voicemail, and it's like either 3/4 of the way done, or it's just like not there. You catch like the last 10 seconds. Is that something that's going to be addressed with this new platform?
That's certainly, I wasn't aware that that was an issue. I can certainly look into that specific issue for you, especially as we're migrating over to the new system. But that's certainly something that will be part of the conversation with them to ensure that the whole message is captured when it's left as a voicemail.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Ms. Cassidy?
Okay, one of Mr. Perlman's questions just made me think of this, and it might be a dumb question, but you talked about how there's going to be, you're going to solicit other departments that might help you migrate some of that data over. And I kind of think on the high school level, do the high schools, I guess, do any of the schools, do they manipulate and kind of take ownership of their own websites? Or who does that?
So as
for
of
each of our
right now,
schools?
there's supposed to be an individual in every school or department that's tasked with maintaining the website.
Okay.
As we've transitioned staff members have left, have moved to other positions. It hasn't always been maintained. And so as we go through this process, we'll work to help departments identify who that person is, make sure that they're trained adequately, and then our goal is to make sure that they're annually trained so that they've got the most up-to-date information about how to do that task.
They won't necessarily be like doing the design of each site because you want them to stay consistent and clean and look the
Correct.
same, similar across the board.
So we'll manage that from a
Okay.
district level with the IMS and district communications team, but as far as content, they would be responsible.
Okay,
and
that makes
assist in
sense.
the content.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, I have one question. So currently, who manages the district website, mass communication?
So the mass notification system is run through the district communications department. The website is a collaborative effort between IMS and district communications, and then, of course, individual departments and schools have somebody that's tasked with maintaining the site.
So who will run this once we switch to Blackboard?
So we plan to keep the same philosophy. So district communications would help to manage the content at the district level, and IMS would help support the back end from the technology standpoint. And then each department and school would have somebody in their department or division that would be responsible for helping to update content.
I understand. And the reason why I bring that up is talking about how staff will change from different position, making sure that we do something differently than we did in the past. But I'm sure you have that already worked out. So thank you for that. This is an action item. It's actually broken down with the mass communication system as well as the website design and mobile application. So entertain a motion. Oh, we can approve both of these at the same time, right? No? I understand. I'll entertain a motion to approve item J1A.
So moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Dr. Holman. Any other discussion? Mr. Ray, when you get a chance? Roll call, please.
Just 1 second, please.
You're good.
Actually, I actually do have a quick question. That's all right. Yeah, we're voting on J1A now, right? And that's what was presented? Okay, all right, never mind.
Okay, Mr. Snow. I'm good.
Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Cracky? Perlman?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Snipe?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
Cassidy?
Aye.
Godding?
Aye.
Holman?
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries, passes. Thank you. Moving on to item J1B. Did you have your question, Mr. Perlman?
Well, it just kind of relates on these, on the agenda here, it shows first year cost of $64,150, and then the other one, $192,995. But I didn't recall seeing both of those figures. I only recall seeing the $192,995 figure for year one.
You're talking about online?
On the presentation, right?
Okay.
On the presentation, on the PowerPoint, I thought the first year was $192,995. But if you look at J1A and J1B, that $192,995 is only for J1B.
So slide 8 has website and mass communication on it. So the Blackboard website and mobile app is the 192,995.
I'm trying to pull it up now. But is that other figure represented somewhere in the slide?
The mass notification figure?
Right. Oh, I see it now. Okay, all right.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item J1B.
So moved.
There's a motion by Mrs. Godin. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Mr. Smith. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Perlman?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Snipe?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
Cassidy?
Aye.
Godding?
Aye.
Holman?
Aye.
Cracky?
Aye.
9-9.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And Mr. Snow, if I could, I want to thank the team that took the time to evaluate all of this information, which included district communications, IMS, 2 high school principals, 2 middle school principals, 2 elementary school principals, Dr. Holman, and I'd also like to thank Pete Fay for pulling out all the archival information that supported the 100 years of communication in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Moving on to item J2A, Student Assignment Plan, Board Committee Update.
Oh, I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Cassidy.
that's me. I was riveted by the try our new loaf poly bread advertisement in here, baked by Adler and Forbes Baking Company. Okay, anyway. Student assignment plan. Yes, we met this past Wednesday, September 30th. I don't have a lot to report because, quite frankly, the amount of information that we were given. We work with the wonderful research department OPS has and our community and student services department. They're providing us with information for this committee, and it was really vast this last time. We actually started delving into the information. We're basically starting to look at the numbers and data, and it's a lot, but we're looking at the information with regard to school population, number of schools, school choice, all with regard to transportation and school choice. So we actually decided to convene and do a second part. So we have a second part of this meeting coming up. I believe it is scheduled for Tuesday, October 13th. So we will convene and continue to delve into the massive amount of information that we've been giving to move forward with this, with our ultimate goal of trying to sort out our transportation and school choice. So that's about it for now.
Thank you. And I believe we'll start that process next year in January, so we'll have new schools.
And we're going to need the time for it. It's a lot of information.
Yes, indeed. Mrs. Gadding.
So I would just add, as parents are probably listening and wondering, it's really for the 22-23 school year. Is that correct, Mr. Ray? Yes. So that it's not right around the corner. I don't know. I know there's some other changes being made programmatically. Are those also for 22-23? We don't know. Okay. So this is just, I just want to make sure that from a parent standpoint, they know.
No, great point.
That we're not doing this next year, right? No.
Thank you. Any other questions for the committee? Alrighty. Well, that's the last thing we have reported for today. There is no receipt of reports, and I will pass it on to Dr. Holman.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, personnel matters, pending litigation, and real estate. And Scott Roberts.
There's a motion to go into closed session by Dr. Holman. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Smith?
Aye.
Aye. Snipe?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
Cassidy?
Aye.
Gadding?
Aye.
Holman?
Aye.
Cracky?
Aye.
Perlman?
Aye.
9-0.
Motion carries. Let everyone know that we're going to closed session, so everyone in the public will have to leave the boardroom. Thank you so much, and have a safe drive home. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, and Scott Roberts, personnel, pending litigation, and real estate. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 7:41. Let the record reflect the board came out of closed session at 8:06. Meeting's adjourned.